All right, welcome to the Sober Heathen podcast. I'm Scott. I'm sober and I'm a heathen. Today we're supposed to have a guest from Ireland, but we had to reschedule, so unfortunately you're stuck with yours truly. Uh, just kind of wanted to talk about a few things today. Um, you know, uh, I think it's very important, and I think we talked about this a little bit on the Twitter space. I think it's very important to realize that if you put yourself in treatment or AA meetings, you're going to be told that this takes time. It's going to be at least a year, blah blah blah, before this and that and the other thing happen. I'm coming to find out that that is extremely true. It's dead nuts. Um, things were pretty fucking sweet and smooth right around the 6 month mark. Um, uh, Things just seem to be falling in place, opportunity after opportunity. And then even now, obviously, with the mild success that the podcast has had with the range of people from different places um, being on the podcast, that's pretty cool. And the response I get when I tell people that, I think of it in my head a certain way, and then I tell people, I try to advertise that fact a little bit on there to encourage people to come on, that they've been from all these states and other countries and stuff now. And, the response I get is like, wow, that's really cool. I just had an interview. I just finished literally like 3 minutes ago, an online kind of not really an interview, but just kind of a talk. And, telling this person, that I've had people from all these places like, wow, that's really awesome. And it is really awesome. But to get back to my point, like I've said many times, around the 6 month mark, it was really good. And then like the day after my 6 month um anniversary, some people call it an anniversary, but my sobriety date, that was a rough day. And then these last 2 months, coming up on 8 months here in 8 days, actually. um it's been extremely up and down, very difficult to maintain any kind of consistent positivity, consistent action. I'm finding it really hard to want to go anywhere and do anything. I was here last weekend and I got a phone call and asked if I wanted to go out and spend some time with some people, and I jumped on it. I was like, oh my God, yes, get me out of here. But since that day, it's yeah, I haven't really wanted to do anything or go anywhere, or and it's just it is what it is. So that whole year thing, it's becoming more and more true. The things that people say, excuse me, the things that people say, uh, it's like these people know what the hell they're talking about. I'm gonna take these off because they're gonna shut off anyway because there's no noise coming back to me. There's nobody talking to me. Uh, I'm sure the year is not a precise science, and by dwelling on that, and 3 months from now, you hit that year, and you're like, oh, I'm free, and everything's going to be better, and then it's going to be a rude awakening, I think, if you set yourself up for failure. So I'm doing my best not to do that. I'm again looking back through my notes from in jail, and I think I've showed it before for those of you that watch on YouTube. Um, that's a stack of notes that I put together in just under 2 months of jail. I think it was 45 days, a couple weeks shy of 2 months, and just writing and writing and writing in there, and coming up with ideas when I decided to, get back into my podcast that I had started right before I went in. And I just, I still don't feel that choosing to drink alcohol um, would make anything better. So for me, that's weird in a way, but it's been long enough now where it's not like an insane thought like it felt in the beginning. It felt insane to think that alcohol wasn't going to be a part of my daily life, or in some capacity. It feels a lot better now, uh, and less draw, but it is kind of concerning, the lack of energy and the lack of want to do shit. I don't want to do this. I just got done talking with a lady for this job prospect, which just talked to somebody because I'm a felon, see if they want to proceed. And that didn't bother me. I mean, I've accepted that, and that's going to be something that is going to be commonplace. The system has set people up for failure. I personally can't understand how anybody can be a felon when it's a nonviolent crime. That just makes no sense to me, especially with the juju that being a felon brings on a person. There are lists and lists of places that hire people with felonies. So, and those I believe those felonies can be of a variety of types. And that's really cool because people have to work, and you just keep hearing, all the time, we can't find anybody to work. I mean, there's a restaurant in Bay City, which is a city relatively close to me. They built the place. It's all done. I believe it's ready to go, and they can't find anybody to work it, so it just sits there. And it's a brand name. I believe it's a Yaya's, and that's a brand name restaurant that can't find people to work. Um, but I'm starting to believe, and I'm starting to realize that there are a lot of people that probably would work that can't work. I mean, I'm not going to name any names, but I have family members who have just been okay with this lifestyle. Well, I don't have a license. Well, I'm depressed. Well, I'm this and that and the other thing. And, they have worked one job in their life, maybe two, and not for any extended period of time. And they've just accepted this lifestyle. I mean, very close family members. I can think of three right off the top of my head that have barely worked, a handful of years in their lifetime because they've found ways to not have to do that. And I'm not, listen, I am the last person to place judgment on anybody. If you have a physical ailment that prevents you from working, that's not what I'm saying, and that's not the case in these situations. And I think that's where I'm really struggling is the comparison that I create in my head of these people, and most of my people in my circle don't even know these family members because I'm not close with them, but I know them, and I was close enough as a child with them that I draw these comparisons all the time, and I am not these people. My rational mind knows that, but my irrational mind, the irrational thought that leads to the addiction to begin with, as they called it in treatment, irrational thinking, is what leads to me making those poor choices and going back to the bottle, literally every 5 seconds while I was deep in it. So these irrational thoughts, I mean, they are bombarding right now, and I likened it the other day to Venom, the comic book character. And, it's an organism that gets inside this guy, and, they kind of fight for supremacy in a way, and then they learn how to work together. But, at any point, Venom could take over and be in control. And Venom is a little more or a lot more chaotic than the person that he is infiltrated. I think that's a good analogy. I think right now my venom is it's under control, and that I'm not going to feed it. I'm not going to feed it the wobble pop. I like to use that reference when it comes to alcohol. I'm not going to give Venom wobble pop, but Venom really wants it, and he wants to continue to push those irrational thoughts in my head to keep pushing me down farther and farther in hopes that given the opportunity, I'll break and I'll consume that poison again. And I'm still very confident that is not something that's going to happen. So there is confidence inside this shell right now, inside this head, this noodle, this noggin, whatever. As far as that goes, my confidence has taken an extreme hit over the past few weeks, and almost every area of my life, certain relationships, job search, as a father, provider, a parent, who is supposed to provide for his children. The podcasts, I'll have a podcast, and then I'll get a handful of people say, "Oh, that was a really good one." And I'm like, man, I thought that sucked. I didn't think that I asked very good questions. I didn't think that, you know, I gave it my all, but luckily when I don't do it solo, I have guests that can really carry the load for me. So luckily I've been very fortunate in having some superb guests on the podcast, which has really helped me during these times of doubt and irrational thinking. I had a whole podcast set up, and I won't go into it now. This isn't going to be a 45-minute podcast, but I was just looking at these notes, and maybe I'll dive into this a little bit more. But it was the title of it was "Create or Complain," and I think that's really good. But again, now there's more thought that goes into it. It's not that simple. You can't just fight your way out of mental health issues, depression, anxiety. And I'm coming to find that I think my anxiety is really the killer here. It's not so much depression, but or maybe it is. I don't know, what the medical definition is of those two, but definitely my anxiety gets up and I get worked up and I create scenarios in my head because of that anxiety, and it really beats me down. So it's not as simple as suck it up, buttercup, get up and create something, and quit complaining. Or you don't have just two choices. The two choices are not just get up and create something, create a better day, or complain. There are factors that are in this thing that, especially in the beginning of recovery. And again, I'm not long into it, so I'm not an expert. But what I am regurgitating is the things that I've been told in treatment. I am an expert in treatment. I feel I've been there several times. They say that 20 hours of practice in something, and then you'll be considered good at it. Well, I put a lot more than 20. I put a bunch of 20 hours into treatment in 2022. I put a bunch of hours into AA and studying the big book. And I put a ton of time in really focusing on what I'm feeling and what's causing it. I am not an expert, but I have experience. So I'm creating this podcast. I'm trying to create an opportunity by waking up a half an hour before this 2:00 meeting and putting a collared shirt on. I didn't wear my hat for the interview, and I put on a happy face and made jokes, and I think it went fairly well. Now, this is going to be a commission thing. Okay, so you're basically a salesman, man, and I'm not good at pushing people. I took a job one time selling smoke detectors, and I made a few sales or whatever, but those were all like friends. I don't know if I sold it to anybody that I didn't know or somebody I knew them. They were a good product, but it was right in the middle of COVID, and people weren't working, and it's like you're trying to sell these things, which are, I mean, they're fantastic. I mean, they're way more expensive than a smoke detector that's in your home, but once you actually learn what they taught you and the things that you learned about the smoke detectors that in your home, it was quite alarming. And now I'm about to go on a spiel to try to sell you smoke detectors that I don't sell anymore. No, that's getting the train off the tracks a little bit. But yeah, so trying to create this a little bit. Something that was interesting, and if you listen to this and you've listened to this, I'll try to wrap it up here to keep this fresh in your mind. And I'd really like to get some feedback from people that do listen to this, whether it's in the comments at YouTube or you find me on Facebook or Twitter at the Sober Heathen. I wrote this down, and I don't know where I got it. It was probably listening to a podcast in jail, but it says an animal won't drink unless it's thirsty. They don't understand that may not be available in the future. So this animals aren't going to go drink in excess. They're not going to drink in excess of water. You can put it there for them, but unless they're thirsty and comfortable enough to drink, obviously, if there's a fear factor there. But if you have comfortable animals that are pets, they're not going to go just drink a bunch of water just to drink it. Oh, I'm thirsty. I'm going to go to the spot where I know there's water. They will drink. They don't understand that, or animals in the wild, let's say, they go to a watering hole. They don't understand if they're not thirsty today. Okay. And they're not thirsty for a few days. It doesn't rain and the hole dries up and they go back because they're thirsty and it's gone. They don't understand to take that drink while you can, as far as survival goes. So I thought that was an interesting interesting quote and interesting way to think about these things. I want to dive into that a little bit more, but just throw that out there and see what we can come up with that. Yeah, I just got a text back from this person. I'm going to go ahead and check it while I'm here, see what it says. Okay, so talking about the felony, it says, so I just called the Department of Insurance. They said that they cannot say for sure right now if it would be denied for the license, but that is not something they typically deny licenses for. So, yay, she says. We'd most likely just do some extra paperwork, send it to the court, send it in court documents, most likely be approved. So, um, sounds hopeful. So, we will see. The only reservations that I have on this is my ability to push a sale. I'm aggressive when it comes to recovery. You know, the other day on the Twitter Spaces, Rich read an article about J Lo bringing alcohol into the house with Ben Affleck, who's struggling with addiction, and I think I called her an asshole and a dick. That I can do. I can speak loud and aggressively defending folks who are fighting for their freedom of this bullshit disease. Um, and I don't have a problem doing that, but I wasn't that strong a salesman pushing smoke detectors. So we'll see um, how this goes. I mean, the worst case scenario, you got to pay like $124 for $3,000 worth of certifications. So the worst case scenario, throw that money in there, get the certifications, add that to the resume, and give it a whirl, right? I mean, I got nothing else to do. I got to take chances, and in these jobs, you got to remember that you're probably never going to see these people again. That's one thing that I really wasn't able to focus on. But I was also in the while I was trying to sell smoke detectors at one point. During that, I was found passed out in a school parking lot. So maybe it wasn't my best foot forward there. But anyway, I appreciate you listening. Please take a minute to find us on social media, give a like. And I say us because this is a team effort. The people that come on here deserve to be heard because they are being brave, and they're putting the story out there, trying to help people that are struggling. And the struggle is terrible. And if you haven't gone through addiction, maybe you've went through a relationship that you were completely in love and the other person wasn't, and you just wake up and you grab your phone every 5 seconds. Did they text me? Did they text me? Did they text me? No, they didn't text me. You wake up in the morning, oh my god, did I miss a message or a phone call from this person? I don't know if you've ever had that, or maybe there was a job that you really wanted, or you're trying to get into college and you really wanted to get that acceptance letter, and you run out to the mailbox every day and it doesn't come, and it doesn't come, and it doesn't come, that type of thing. That's the obsession every second, every minute of every day. When it comes to alcohol, where I was, I can speak on that for certain. It was wake up in the morning, check all the bottles. It was a giant fist pump if you found a full one. It was a groggy, feel like shit mess, to get in the truck and go and find a way to get some money to go and get more alcohol. The money was the easy part. I mean, my grandma would facilitate. She would eat a plate full of shit that I handed to her, all kinds of stupid made up excuses in my eyes. So that wasn't the hard part, but the hard part was trying to get dressed up and not look like a raging fucking alcoholic to walk in the store. Spoiler alert, I don't think I was fooling anybody, especially toward the end. So anyway, again, thank you for listening. This isn't a wah wah. This isn't a poor me. This is me speaking about how I'm feeling. I am very fortunate to be where I'm at right now. I am not in a cage because I have an addiction, so that is a plus. And that is a goal of this podcast, is to try to spread the word that a cage doesn't stop people who are in the middle of addiction. But that's for another day. This is just me talking about how I'm feeling right now, and hopefully somebody listens and can relate a little bit. And I don't have to drink today. I don't want to drink today. So if you're not there yet and all you're thinking about is using, grabbing that substance of choice and put it into your system to feel better, I can tell you, when they tell you that life is better without it, I promise you it is true. I promise you it is true. Just find a way to not use today. Find a way to not put that substance into your system today. And one of these days, life's still going to suck at times. I mean, that's just the truth. Life is still going to suck at times. But it's not going to suck to the point where you're going to want to kill yourself with these substances anymore. That is true for me today. And I can handle this. If the worst thing that I do right now, and with these feelings that I have, and I don't put alcohol into my system, if the worst thing I do is just go back to sleep and enjoy the crazy dreams that my meds are giving me, even though they're not very positive lately. I've never had a true nightmare. Anyways, look how I jump all over the place. There is hope. You will feel better. You won't have to use the substance to continue on with your life. I promise. And that's where I'm going to end this thing. So thank you for listening. Please leave comments, like, subscribe, find us on social media. Let's help get the word out. The people that have been on this thing deserve to be heard, as I said. Get the word out so people like Rich and Michelle and Jack and Crystal and Gail, all these people can be heard. Laura, I know I'm going to be missing people, but they were all super important. Anthony, Justin, everybody that's been on here has had something that can help somebody else. They helped me, every single one of them. So again, thanks for listening. Check out the other podcast, and we will talk soon. I promise that as well. Take care.